This gigantic bat was captured on camera by a man filming his camping trip. He's been missing ever since. Stories like these have been swirling the internet for the past couple of years, with people using pictures and videos to supposedly prove that human-sized bats exist. But could bats really get that big? How dangerous would they be? And why could we make lots of money off their giant bat poop? This is What If, and here's what would happen if bats were the size of humans. Bats already creep a lot of people out, so imagine how scared people would be if there were giant ones roaming around. And keep in mind that bats usually live together in groups of 100 to several thousand. So if you run into one of these giant beasts, chances are there'd be a whole army of them nearby. Would their natural ecosystems be able to sustain these oversized bats? To understand what a world with giant bats would be like, let's get to know our regular-sized bats first. Because there are so many different bat species, today we're just going to focus on two: the flying fox and the vampire bat. Vampire bats have a wingspan of 35 to 40 centimeters. They can run speeds of up to 1.2 meters per second, and they really like to drink blood. They drink so much of it that they can double their weight in just one feeding. So, can you imagine how bloodthirsty they'd be if they were the size of humans? Luckily for us, bats don't get any bigger than our next featured player, the flying fox. There are 60 flying fox species, and the largest one has a wingspan of 1.7 meters. That might sound like it's getting almost human-sized, but the body is pretty small, about 30 centimeters in length. They have a surprisingly big brain for such a small body, and they're said to be as intelligent as dogs. So, what would life be like if there were millions of human-sized, intelligent, blood-sucking bats roaming around? Well, let's find out. Flying fox bats would need to be 6 times bigger to become the size of a human. Their new head-to-toe length would be 170 centimeters. Their new wingspan would be 10 meters. And their new weight would be 216 kilograms. They would need to eat about 19 kilograms of fruit every day just to sustain themselves. With this new hunger, they would easily wipe out farms and orchards, and they'd disrupt the entire food chain. And then there's the vampire bat. Don't worry, they won't add any more stress to our fruit farms because they're only hungry for blood. Oh wait, that sounds even worse. Human-sized vampire bats would be about 170 centimeters long. They'd have a wingspan of 6.8 meters and a mass of 295 kilograms. Because of their size, they would be able to drink 34 liters of blood per meal. If we want to save our necks, we might need to raise livestock to offer up to the vampire bats. We just wouldn't be able to use them for food after because the vampire bats would probably infect that livestock with rabies. And we wouldn't only have to worry about feeding these big beasts, we'd also have to worry about where they're going to live. Usually, bats live in groups of a few hundred to a few thousand in caves, hollow trees, attics, and barns. Clearly, human-sized bats wouldn't all fit into the same amount of space anymore. they might need to create smaller groups and take over buildings and parks. Their sheer size, food requirements, and bodily functions could damage their new homes. But on the bright side, their bodily functions could also make you rich. Bat excrement, also known as guano, is an effective fertilizer. It has high amounts of nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. And it can be very expensive. Right now, an average bat only releases about 2.5 grams of guano each year. But with these new human-sized bats eating upwards of 19 kilograms every day, their guano production will increase dramatically. So, if you're brave enough to get near these beastly creatures to collect their poop, you could make a lot of money. All you'd have to do next is figure out how to spend it. But that's a story for another What If.